Oscar Isaac as Michael, an Armenian from a small village in southern Turkey. A naive yet kind-hearted local apothecary, whose desire was to study medicine. With financial help from his future father-in-law, Michael pursues his dream of studying medicine at the imperial school in Constantinople. In the first part of his journey, he meets his uncle to inform him that he is attending medical school. His uncle has a wife and 2 daughters. The daughters have a dance instructor, Charlotte Lebon, who plays Anna. Michael starts his first day at medical school and makes friends with Emre, a Turk whose father is a Turkish official. Emre's father forces him to join the Turkish army or go to medical school. Emre decides to join medical school, but is ill-prepared for what to expect. During an anatomy lesson, the professor asks Emre to cut into the bowels of a corpse, and poop flies onto him, which makes him faint. Anna is being courted by Chris Myers, an American journalist who works for the Associated Press. Anna, Chris, Emre, and Michael become acquainted one evening and go clubbing. There is a good relationship between Anna and Michael, but it seems more like a friendship than a romantic relationship. Emre invites the 3 of them to his birthday luncheon, hosted by his father. Anna, Chris, and Michael go to the luncheon where they notice the gifted German warships to the Turks, sailing through the water passage with saluting gunfire. Chris is a bit drunk and insults both the Germans and the Turks to their faces. Anna runs off and later tells Chris that he embarrassed her. He promises not to get drunk anymore. War is declared. The Turks almost get Michael to enlist in the army, but Emre, who gets a medical student exemption, pays a Turk to give Michael an exemption. Emre's father gets angry at him for saving his friend and warns him not to help anymore. Michael's uncle thinks Anna and he make a good match. Michael says he can't marry Anna because he has a fiancée in his hometown. He tells him that he has her dowry and he is using it for medical school. His uncle offers to repay the dowry of 400 gold coins, plus give 200 more so Michael can marry Anna. Michael refuses since he made a promise to marry his fiancée. Turks start rounding up the Armenian intelligentsia, along with the rich men in Constantinople. Michael's uncle is attacked, along with his shop destroyed and set on fire. Chris goes to the countryside in a car with a guide. Along the way he comes across a destroyed Armenian village and begins to take photographs. He finds the men hanged, and the livestock ransacked and destroyed. The guide panics and reverses the car to leave the area. Along the way back, Chris sees a column of women and children walking at a distance, and pursues to investigate further. The guide driving the car refuses, and Chris forcefully stirs the car. He pays the guide, leaving him by the side of the dusty road and drives away towards the column. Chris stops the car at a distance, and observes through his binoculars, finding women and children being forcefully led away by Turkish soldiers. Chris notices an Armenian woman fainting at the rear end of the column, while a Turkish soldier on horseback approaches and shoots the fainted woman. The Turkish soldier on horseback notices Chris and gives chase along with 2 other soldiers, that Chris manages to get away. Michael and Anna go to Chris to get help for his uncle, but he is busy reporting the Armenian massacre he witnessed. They then try to get Michael's uncle out of Turks' clutches with the dowry money, and by getting Emre's help to act as an emissary. Emre pays the soldier to get Michael's uncle out, and the soldier instructs Michael to follow him to identify his uncle. Michael identifies his uncle, but to his surprise, he is also arrested and taken into custody. Emre's father disapproves of this and sends Emre into the army to restore his honor. Michael's uncle is not seen again, and Michael's aunt and her 2 girls are taken in by Anna and Chris. 6 months pass by, and we see Michael serving in a forced labor camp, building a railroad for the Turks. One day Michael and some other prisoners were unloading metal rails from the carriage, and carrying each rail away. While carrying a rail, one of the prisoners accidentally slips and the metal rail falls onto his leg, fracturing it. Another prisoner who used to work as a former clown was working nearby, came to help, but the Turkish soldier puts him to replace the prisoner with the fractured leg. Returning back, the prisoner with the fractured leg is shot dead, when Michael and the former clown tried to help him. After killing the prisoner, the Turkish guard points his pistol towards the two, forcing both of them to say thank you. Later that night, the former clown entertains some of the prisoners with a pantomime show, making them laugh. The next day Michael was offloading dynamite cases off the carriage and handing them to the former clown. In one of the cases, Michael notices nitroglycerin leaking, making the dynamite extremely volatile. So Michael warns the clown to be careful. The former clown then takes the leaking case and goes up to the guard who told him to say, "Thank you," and throws the box of dynamite onto him, blowing up many of the Turks and some of the prisoners around him. Michael notices what the clown was planning to do, jumps off the carriage from the other side, and gets thrown off the carriage for the blast. Michael manages to survive, but is unconscious. After regaining consciousness, Michael escapes and walks along the rail track at night. A train approaches, and Michael manages to run and climb on the last carriage of the moving train. It starts to rain and he hears voices coming out from inside the carriages. On the train, he finds there are elderly prisoners trapped inside. He tries to break them out but fails. While trying, he falls off into a river and ends up being washed downstream. Michael wakes up, only to be washed up near a farm of an Armenian couple. The couple were asking Michael if he had seen their two sons, who were taken away by the Turks. Later, the elderly couple prepared and gave Michael a mule, so that he could travel to his village to see his mother and father. Michael finally arrives to his hometown, only to find Turks occupying and suppressing the Armenians living in the town. To avoid getting caught, he waits till it's dark to go to his home. He sneaks into his home through a window, scaring his mother and father, but they welcome him and tell him the young men were all taken away by the Turks. In the morning, his future father-in-law and his fiancée, Meryl, show up and they make plans for Michael to marry his fiancée and hide in the mountains in a cabin. Michael tells his mother he is reluctant to marry since he loves Anna, but his mother tells him to get married to Meryl and to forget her. Both families go up to the cabin in the mountains, and Michael gets married to Meryl. Anna, Chris, Michael's aunt and the two cousins, arrive in a town in southern Turkey, where a Protestant clergyman is running an orphanage. The clergyman sends the orphans secretly to Basik to another priest, so the children can escape by boat, by sending a few orphans at a time. He tells Chris he will send him along, so Chris can report it. Chris is also introduced to a Turkish official, who is facilitating the orphan rescues, and asks Chris to promise not to disclose his name. Michael's aunt with the two girls want to go and stay at Michael's parents' house, and Anna asks Chris to help her. Chris agrees and they all go the next day. They arrive at Michael's parents' house and Michael's mother tells Anna that Michael is dead. Chris and Anna return back to the orphanage. Michael comes out of his hiding place from the cottage with his pregnant wife, since she wasn't feeling well and needed his mother to care for her, so they go to his parents' place. His aunt sees Michael and is surprised that he is alive. Michael finds out from his aunt that Chris and Anna are staying at the orphanage and that they are planning to escape with the orphans. Michael doesn't believe his family is safe and wants them to escape too. So he goes to the orphanage by himself and finds Anna. Anna is happy to see him, but she gets upset when he says that he got married. Chris goes to Anna after realizing that Anna has feelings for Michael, and she says that after they help Michael and his family escape, she won't see Michael anymore. At dawn, Michael, Anna, and Chris set off with the orphans. En route to Basik, Michael tells Chris that they are close to his village, and to find a place to rest, till he goes and gets his family. While they stop to rest, they hear gunshots and voices screaming at a distance. Michael and Chris go to investigate and they come to a stream of water, where they find dead bodies scattered. They find that the Turks have killed the villagers from where Michael is from. While searching the bodies, Michael finds his dead father, along with his pregnant wife, but finds his mother still alive, while Chris finds Yiva, alive, one of Michael's two cousins. 3 Turkish soldiers on horseback spot them by the stream and begin to shoot and give chase. Chris leads the Turks away while everyone else managed to run off. The Turks catch up with Chris and he gets arrested despite having credentials that show he is a journalist. He is then taken to a Turkish base where a high-ranking officer interrogates him and reads his journal, which he finds unflattering. The officer then wanted the name of the other Turkish officer, who was helping the orphans. Chris is threatened to be shot, but even with a gun to his head, he refuses to name the other officer. The Turkish officer then tells Chris he is a spy, no matter what papers from the American embassy he has. Michael and company encounter the villagers from Basik who were kicked out of their village. They talk with the mayor, who tells them that the Turks destroyed all the boats, and that there is no way of escaping by sea. The mayor tells Anna that they can find the priest they are looking for, at the back, and the priest tells Michael that his group can join them, as they go into the desert. Chris is imprisoned, in a Turkish military jail, and Emir goes to him, telling him to either sign a confession that invalidates all his work, or that he will be executed that night. Chris refuses and tells Emir to contact the American embassy to inform the ambassador about his arrest, who will be able to get him out. Emir tells Chris that it would be considered treason if he did so. The American ambassador shows up at the Turkish Ministry of Interior to demand Chris's release, or it would be a declaration of war. The Turkish official then wanted a list of Armenians who have life insurance from American companies. Since the Armenians are dead with no living relatives, the life insurance would go to the country of Turkey. The American ambassador tells him that he will never get any such list from him. Chris gets released and is deported to Malta as he is unwelcome in Turkey. Emir is identified as the informant to the American embassy and is shot by firing squad for treason. The mayor of Basik tells the villagers that he rather stop running and fight, even though they have enough to live on in the desert. The villagers think they will be fine in the desert, but Michael tells them of how all the people in his village were massacred, and the Turks will kill them too. So the villagers decide to make a stand on a nearby mountain, putting up defenses. A couple of days later, a Turkish regiment scouting for surviving Armenians shows up at their location, but the villagers fight, resisting the Turks. Michael freezes when he tries to fire the rifle, and realizing that he can't shoot, so he starts helping the wounded. The Turkish regiment, realizing their casualties are heavy, decides to retreat to bring in more reinforcements. Knowing the Turks will be back, the villagers head up the mountain for high ground for cover. Later, Michael's mother succumbed to her injuries and they bury her. While the villagers were taking refuge up on the mountain, they stitched and made a large cross facing the sea. The French warship with Chris on board spots their location and closes in. The Turkish reinforcements arrive with their cavalry, and they attack the position of the villagers. Up on the mountain, the Turks and the villagers fight, even throwing rocks at the Turks. Meanwhile, the French warship arrives and dispatches French marines in lifeboats to rescue the villagers. Fighting is intense while women and children head to the seashore. Chris arrives on one of the lifeboats and sees how Michael and Anna care for each other. Anna, Eva, Michael and Chris get on the lifeboat and make their way back toward the French warship. A Turkish artillery hits near the lifeboat, where Michael, Anna and Eva are in. Anna and Eva with others fall overboard into the water. Chris and Michael jump into the water to rescue them. Michael swims towards Anna and Eva, but is unable to save Anna and she sinks to the bottom of the ocean. Michael helplessly tries to find her, manages only to save Eva. Chris gets on the warship first, and waits for Michael, Eva, and Anna. When he sees Michael and Eva only, he asks for Anna, but Michael only cries. The French took the survivors to a refugee camp in Egypt, and Chris arranged visas for Michael, Eva and the orphans. Michael adopted Eva, and they moved to America, with all the orphans that were with them. We learn that Chris dies in 1938, in the Spanish Civil War, and Eva gets married while America was getting ready for the Second World War. Michael says that Eva wished her parents were here, but Michael says in his speech that her parents are already here, along with the orphans' parents, watching them. On September 12, 1915, the French Navy rescued more than 4,000 besieged Armenians from Muzada Mountain. 1.5 million men, women and children perished during the Armenian Genocide. To this day, the Turkish government refuses to acknowledge this crime.
Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to click the like and subscribe. Keep up to date on the latest movie recaps by enabling the notification button.